Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Bohm, Sporttechi's VP of Partnerships. It's my pleasure to introduce the first breakout session of the day, The Future of Sponsorships, Elevating Your Sales Tech Stack, powered by Sportsdigita. I'd like to welcome our speakers up on stage, starting with our moderator, Doug Holtzman, VP of Business Development from Sportsdigita, Sarah Lockwood Morales, Director of Partnership Marketing from the Portland Timbers, Drew King, Manager of Corporate Partnerships from the Atlanta Braves, and Kim Hoey, Senior Analyst, Partnership Intelligence, Chicago Fire FC. And with that, Doug, I'm going to go ahead and step aside and let you take it from here.
Great, thank you very much. Welcome and thank you everyone for joining this fantastic session. Again, my name is Doug Holtzman with Sportsdigita and I'll be your moderator. We've got a great panel of guests today. We've got Sarah Lockwood Morales, the Director of Partnership Marketing from the Portland Timbers, Kim Hoey, that Senior Analyst of Partnership Intelligence with the Chicago Fire, and Drew King, Manager of Corporate Partnership with the Atlanta Braves. What is great about these three guests is that they all come from different areas of sponsorship sales. Got the sales side, the service side, and the intelligence side. So I think there's a lot to say. We're going to have a good time. So first, let's tell us about yourself and what you are responsible for at the organization. Sarah, lead us off.
Thanks, Doug. Again, Sarah Lockwood Morales with the Portland Timbers and Portland Thorns, representing both MLS and NWSL respectively. Currently oversee a team of 3 and about 90 corporate partners for both the Timbers and Thorns. Prior to joining Portland, I spent 14 years in the NHL with the Arizona Coyotes and Anaheim Ducks.
Awesome. I'm Kim Hoey. I'm currently a senior analyst at Chicago Fire FC, doing partnership strategy and intelligence. So in this current role, wearing a lot of hats. So helping with rate card evaluations, prospecting for our sales team, assisting our partnership marketing team with upsells, building decks, and also helping with data visualizations and analytics. In prior roles, I worked at the NFL and then also Fox Sports, both account management roles, doing media ad sales and marketing. At NFL, it was focused on digital, and then at Fox Sports, it was linear. And then shout out to my fellow Michigan Wolverines who are also tuning in.
Drew King, I'm the manager of corporate partnerships. I'm on the sales side with the Atlanta Braves. I've been here. This is now my 9th season I'm heading into. A proud Virginia Tech Hokie, since we were giving shout outs to our alums out there. Prior to my time with the Braves, I spent 8 years in the college space with IMG College and ISP Sports, bouncing around the Southeast a little bit at Southern Miss, Auburn, a little time at Tulane and Georgia Tech prior to jumping over to the Braves. Responsibilities here are primarily revenue generation is my primary focus, but we all take on a little bit on the side. And my focus here is to help manage our staff efforts as a liaison to our analytics teams, our IT when needed as partnership conversations lead us, but also on our presentation systems, making sure that our imagery looks good out the door and all that. In addition to that, also work on our CRM platform to make sure that is set up the way that we're selling things.
That's great. And as you all know, I love that you all three are working on totally 3 separate things. And again, once I start asking some of these questions, I think everybody in the audience will have a lot to take in here. So we're going to first talk about tech stack. Again, I laugh because 2 years ago, if you would ask me what's your tech stack, I wouldn't know what you're talking about. But technology is changing every single day. So this question, what does your current tech stack look like? And what technologies are critical to your organization right now? Kim, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I help manage our vendor relationships. So a few that I'll kind of highlight. Salesforce we're using on the CRM side. On the back end, PrimeLingo is something that we use to understand indexing against our local market. In relation to Fire fans. Blinkfire is who we partner with to track partner branding on social media campaigns. We're also tracking unbranded campaigns just to understand white space analysis on new campaigns that we can add partners to. Sponsor United, we really enjoy to assist with the prospecting side of things. Navigate helps us with valuations and recaps and a ton of other stuff. And then, of course, Digitech. Can't forget them. But we're really enjoying being new new users of DigiDeck, I would view them as kind of a tech company that happened to work in sports versus the opposite of a sports company trying to do tech. So we're really thrilled with just the customer service. Our decks look slick, ton of, options on how to integrate text and videos and imagery to really bring our storytelling alive.
On the Brave side, so I'll probably leave some things out, being in my partnership sales vacuum, but I'm going to try to do as good a job as I can to kind of step back and paint the overall picture. So when we moved into our new ballpark, our technology went from 0 to 60. We have the headquarters of the Southeast branch of Comcast here located on site. So the backbone that we've got internet-wise is terrific for anything that we need to build upon. From there, a lot of our partnerships started to become a little bit more prevalent in the tech space. Dell EMC helped us build out our tech center, and most of our hardware starts there. Beyond that, when we get into the software side, we are a Microsoft club. In the last year, we've started using Teams quite a bit more, as you'd expect, not just for the video conferencing, but for more of its application to working in groups. CRM, we are on Salesforce. And between those two, we're also completely mobile capable. So mobility was big for us. We wanted to have mobile functionality for our sales team in particular. And we wanted our overall focus to be that if we were going to install some sort of technology that was going to help us, that it was going to improve our efficiency as a department. We didn't want to put in a bunch of information to only slow us down. Everything that we've done was with a focus on trying to take a generally, let's just say, well-experienced sales team. I'm the youngest of us. Everybody else here is getting mailers from AARP right now. So we needed to make sure that that everything that we put in place was going to help them do their job and make them more efficient. Lead generation, you're going to hear some familiar names here: Sponsor United, Zoom Info. We've used LinkedIn Navigator on and off over the past as well. Various combinations of those right now at Sponsor United and Zoom Info. Presentations, of course, Sportsdigita is everything that we're working through there. ROI metrics and research. On this side, we are probably a little more traditional. We're Nielsen and Prime Lingo, and we've explored some things that were AI-based in terms of how to evaluate our signage presences in social media and on various TV networks, etc. But so far, we've stuck with Nielsen because at the end of the day, we wanted that name recognition on the buyer side. So we're on the precipice and very interested in these types of things, and are ready for those to be recognized by our buyers to the point where we really feel confident in starting to add those pieces. So something that we're all very focused on, very aware of, and excited about in this space.
Yeah, and then really to build off of what Kim and Drew said, we've onboarded quite a few different technologies in a time during the pandemic, one of those being MVP Index. We brought on in the latter part of 2020 to really ramp up the way we quantify and value our partnerships. And it's really new conversation for us in the way we engage with our partners and really telling a full story, as well as bringing on Sportsdigita. I would say our team was very old school on the sales side. Decks could have been a little bit more integrated, and the DigiDeck really allows us to tell a really fully vetted story while incorporating video and other things, as well as Salesforce and Core are really at the core of our business in the way we track and manage our inventory, and really communicate internally, since our ticketing team uses that as well, and the way we manage our partners and start to build that database as well. So it really allowed us to really start to dig into our partners and who we're doing business with. And the shareability has been crucial in a time when we've been so apart. So onboarding Microsoft Teams was very huge benefit for us across our company. So
I always laugh with technology because about 20 years ago when I started at the New Orleans Saints, the first day they gave me a computer that was probably from the 70s, a Yellow Pages and a phone, and said, good luck. So it's changed just a bit over these 20 years. So we all know that the world around us has changed so much over this last year. So how has the way you've done business also changed or pivoted? Drew, why don't you start us off?
So we really saw the industry shift for the first time, all at the same time, from revenue driving to loss mitigation, you might call it, retention, for the first time. I've actually been at a place where that was an issue before, but it was as a result of natural disasters and hurricanes and things like that. But for an entire industry to be hit at the same time, and for our partners to be so aware of what was going on across the board in some situations, this was certainly a first time thing for all of us. Tech stack wise, the things that really helped us this last year, I would say having the vendors in place that are providing us such good reporting and such ability to be nimble was huge. So as soon as we found out, for instance, what our season was going to look like, number of games, etc., we're running CRM reports that give us full details sorted by rep, with a tab for each rep so that they can be on the phone with a client. They can look down that list, see exactly what inventory is in that specific partnership, what the original partnership number was, what the number is if it's truncated to 37% season. And then as they look down those assets with each dollar figure represented for each piece, they can do quick math and understand, okay, this part is going to happen, this part might happen, and this part we need to figure out make goods or what we're going to do to solve for that. That was huge. That for us lived on Teams and was really the first time our sales staff, which as I said is a very experienced group, made a full-on feet-first dive into Microsoft Teams, shared files, chat rooms, all that different stuff. We also use Chatter quite a bit in the Salesforce, which is a feature that some use and some may not be aware of, but Chatter is excellent for tagging each other, just like Teams chats and Slack and some of those things are. And that, for us all working remotely, it was huge for us to be able to communicate and in that sort of new world. So those were the big pieces that probably changed and helped us the most.
And then to be additive to that on the servicing and relationship side, the way we interact and interface with our partners changed drastically, going from hosting partners at games throughout the year, various B2B events, dinners, lunches, that all went away during the pandemic. So in trying to maintain some kind of normalcy, it was crucial for us to maintain through Zoom or Microsoft Teams, our virtual meetings, connecting via happy hours. I'm sure there's some virtual fatigue at this point, but really trying to maintain a state of normalcy as much as we could when the world around us was unknown and chaotic. So for us, it was also making sure our partners were in the loop, whether various town halls that we were hosting, speaker series, so they could be in the know with what we were doing. But then also to Drew's point, behind the scenes, problem solving. That's what we became, problem solving and looking for areas for make goods for us to retain as much revenue as we could in 2020. And then just focusing on full on retention. New business kind of went out the door last year in 2020. You're starting to see that a little bit in 2021, but I feel like we lived it. We know what to expect a little bit more here in 2021.
For sure. I noticed over 20 years when I was selling sponsorships that they were always a little bit behind the 8 ball in evolving, right? So how do you think now with COVID, right? How do you think now the future of sponsorship is already or will be changing in the coming years? Sarah?
I would probably lean on Drew to add some color to this part, but our contracts and integrating force majeure into that, as well as the learnings to be flexible with our partners as we're negotiating make goods, and really digging into also the digital components that we sell across TV as well as social, and really leveraging that in our deals moving forward. Partners are asking for that, and they're looking to us as experts to guide them. So it's really coming up still with the customized package, and then also trying to uncover new assets, pushing the limits here as well, and exploring new inventory that may not have been there pre-pandemic that we're kind of forced to explore at this point, and really dig in with our partners.
Yeah, I would echo and build on that. So as brands are getting more sophisticated in making sure that their investments are getting them ROI. I think there's going to be increased transparency from the property side to the brands, not only for ROI, but ROO and fulfilling their specific brand objectives and goals. So teams are going to have to invest in these tools that are tracking, further tracking how platforms and activations are performing, but also fan sentiment tied to these partner activations. And then separate to the kind of data tracking side, I also think that there's going to be increased, importance of community initiatives. So kind of the framework that we're seeing with Angel City FC can see, a bigger focus on partnerships that are giving back to the community.
To kind of look at what I think is going to change, one of the things I think is important to note is what I think will remain consistent, because then you can kind of build around that. And you're kind of nodding back to what Doug was saying, where it seems like sometimes sponsorships don't change a ton. What I expect to happen in the advertising space is that, just like we've seen in the last 10 years, we're going to keep seeing new vehicles and new medium pop up, and things are going to continue to get noisier and noisier and noisier for advertisers. The benefit to sports and entertainment sponsorships will stay the same. It will be to differentiate you from all that other stuff. So I think in terms of what might change that could be really exciting for the sponsorship space is we currently, for it to be such a big piece of our bread and butter, we have things like analytics to measure the amount of time spent on a certain type of media, what that might be worth in dollars. We have surveys from fans talking about how powerful our campaigns can be. But what we really don't have is all the intangibles that we all know exist about sponsorships that elevates a brand image in someone's mind and makes it the first thing you think of when you're pulling out, the old yellow pages. We don't have an ability to really put that in dollars or that in metrics yet. And I think that's where we could see technology take a role and step in on, okay, well, you've missed all of these placements that aired on all these other highlights or on social media through AI. Or it might be that we see brands get more sophisticated at figuring out the impact on their customer base with the goodwill gestures like community and some of that, and how that converts into repeat dollars. Those are some areas that we could go and that we could really improve, I think.
For sure. That's a great point. Now, since COVID, I've watched a lot of sports on TV. Probably too much, but I enjoy doing it. And then obviously when Kansas plays, I throw a lot of stuff at my television, as in last game. But I've noticed that there's a lot of new inventory that has been created because of COVID. So Sarah, why don't we start with you? Tell us about some of the new inventory that we have out there.
Yeah, great question, Doug. So when MLS kind of relaunched our season last year in 2020 with the MLS is Back tournament, the league kind of provided new virtual signage. So signage over the seats and on the pitch, we call those gold carpets. So that allowed us to, from a revenue retention standpoint, sell new inventory. The league allowed us to carry that over into 2021 into our local markets. So having virtual signage, you'll see throughout both NWSL and MLS. The league also opened up the left sleeve patch for us to use as a revenue retention tool, which we were able to monetize successfully last year, and doing the same here in 2021. New that's unique to MLS too is the face mask that players wear. The league opened up that inventory for teams to leverage for like hospital partners, bigger partners, again, for revenue retention, as well as various TV assets. So we call them L bars. They kind of frame up the screen as well as like a lower third graphic. Again, inventory that didn't exist pre-COVID has allowed us to strategically and proactively approach our partners, knowing that those assets exist, and also those require a lot of lead time. So being able to, again, manage that inventory for us in 2021 has been really crucial in our conversations.
We saw some similar things to what other clubs have done around Major League Baseball. We did virtual tarps, virtual mound logos, first time that we dealt with that. And that was actually a different technology challenge on the regional sports network, and where we were dealing with sizing being appropriate, dealing with interesting issues that might cause a logo to not display because of various broadcast styles. So there were some interesting things we learned along the way there. We've also seen other clubs in Major League Baseball do physical mound logos. But something probably more interesting that's not really COVID related, but just more of where sponsorships is heading. I think we're going to wind up looking for ways to internally continue to have more robust staffs for creating original content, video in particular. It's something we're all already working on, but I think that our executives and ownership groups around the country are going to continue to have an eye on that in terms of how much and how big should those staffs be and how much should we continue to invest in that, and are we able to turn that around financially? So that's probably the biggest category outside of COVID make goods.
Very interesting. So I've heard these three words ever since I've started selling sponsorships. I then started saying it to people when I went on the agency side, and I probably talk to about every day with my clients. Tell a story, right? So how are you all able to tell a story now when communicating with your partners and your sponsors? Drew?
So as I mentioned before, we have a more senior sales team here. So having consistency in presentation is really, really important. We've got a great creative design team that helps us kind of guide the overall imagery there and has, as long as we've had presentations, you know. However, keeping those consistent with so many different styles of and skill sets with computers is difficult. So for us, having Digideck the number one thing that we had to decide when we were looking at Digideck for us was, is this actually going to make us more efficient? Back to what I initially said. Are these guys going to all feel comfortable using a new program, or is it going to trip us up? And it actually simplified things, streamlined things, made things so much simpler and more consistent. And all of a sudden, some of these guys who would not claim to be the savviest with the computer can create really cool first-class slick looks, as Kim mentioned. So that's been huge for us. We actually had a partner of ours also jump on board, not in the sports space. Kaiser Permanente was so impressed with it that they actually picked up the product also and applied it to their needs. So it was pretty cool. We've also we've tried to start extending this. I think custom imagery is really important. So we're trying to train our sales teams on the sales guys who are capable of it a little bit more on Photoshop and some basic editing to where they can create mock-ups on their own. Those are the highlights for me.
Yeah, just to kind of echo Drew's point with streamlining, we're also on the back end considering trying to figure out if we can integrate our scorecards and fulfillment sheets with Digideck. So if we can pull all within Salesforce certain assets into a scorecard, and that generates and pulls in a corresponding Digideck slide, that's awesome to allow our sales team to kind of jumpstart being at 60-70% of a deck being finished. But on the storytelling side of things, we're really thrilled that we can embed videos and there's not a lag. Our content team is so talented, so it's really amazing, and we're trying to speak to the renaissance that our club is having with a new owner, kind of a new stadium, a new logo, moving downtown and leaving the suburbs. Being able to not only speak to that, but show that in a video and give our clients goosebumps is huge. So aside from the videos, but Digideck allows us to integrate content in other ways with charts and hyperlinks, pop-up images and videos, image galleries. I think I saw a new Canva integration. So they're always looking to allow us to integrate different imagery or content in different ways that's really brought our storytelling to life. So.
Yeah, on the heels of both Drew and Kim, the Digideck has allowed us to really define Timbers and Thorns, two very different properties and entities and two different stories to tell. And to the point of integrating videos, hype videos at the beginning, especially when you're talking to prospective partners. And we have a unique atmosphere in Portland if you're ever attending a match. So being able to tell that story visually and also the shareability of it. And for us on the back end to see how it's shared and where it's shared, and to follow up on the sales side when you send a link and it's open, but you haven't seen communication yet. So it just allows us to be a little bit more insightful there. And we found other ways to utilize the Digideck, whether that's sending specs to partners, having best practices, different presentations internally. So it just allowed us to work more efficiently, to be honest, and also catalog everything that we're doing. So we do have history of past presentations, something that you're really restricted when it comes to a server, right? So it allows us to just be better, more involved with what's going on, more collaboration with sales and partnership marketing. So it's really elevated the way we tell our story and really differentiated our storytelling here in the market.
That's great. I know there's an over-under out there, so I'm going to just say it right now. It looks like it's a game changer for each and every one of you all. So there's one if you're betting right now. So I know we've got a little under 5 minutes. You know, when I was on the agency side, I used to pepper you all with questions. But those questions now have definitely changed because of COVID. So what are companies and agencies asking today versus what they used to ask? Drew? Drew, you're on mute, by the way.
Sorry, guys.
No worries.
Yeah, as Sarah alluded to earlier, more thought is being put into protectionary language than ever. The process for what happens if something happens, and that I think is the top thing we're discussing more than ever.
I would say protection as well as analytics. The more we're able to show impressions, engagements, whether it's a promotion, they're asking for that more often, and being able to show ROI almost immediately. So that's, again, forcing us to invest in various resources to support that.
We're really having to dig into the nitty-gritty of where impressions and reach are coming from, and then just discussing valuation methodology because everyone has different approaches.
For sure. So I know we've got a few minutes left. You know, I always stress be a mentor, right? Like help the next generation. So what advice would you all give to someone just starting out in their sports career? Sarah?
Definitely mentorship, I think, is crucial. I jokingly say work-life balance, something I found later in my career, but I think if you can be more in tune with that earlier on, definitely important, because this industry, it's busy. It's a lot of late nights, weekends, holidays that you're working. So continuing to still find your own personal passion, I think, is important. And also being open to starting and maybe in a department you don't necessarily want to be long-term, but taking it as an opportunity to be a sponge and network as much as you can.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, be a sponge. There's a saying that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so be sure when you're starting out to listen more than you're speaking. And then I would say also have confidence in yourself and your individuality. Don't try to be someone else in fitting into, a group and sacrificing your values. Don't do that.
Great point about listening. It's what separates great sellers from okay ones. It's the guys who are really good at listening and answering client questions. And then lastly, be willing to move if you can. If you're able to move markets, that can help you get in the door.
I love it. So here's another big one. I always say, so my biggest mentor in the business was Steve Shanwald. Like, love the guy. He helped me get to where I am at today. So let's go around the room. Drew, biggest mentor in the business for you?
Getting started, it was definitely Owen Shull, who was my GM at Southern Miss and Georgia Tech. And now with the more refined pieces of it, Jim Allen here on staff, our senior VP here is phenomenal.
Love it.
For me, getting started in the NHL was Tia Crum. She was the VP of sponsorship and just had an incredible work ethic and attitude, and something I still continue to strive to be.
And I'll wrap it up here. A few mentors that I want to mention. Amy Potter was a mentor for Wise Within. She's got great selling background, but also now on the brand side, on the buying side. Mary Seaver at The Fire has really taught us to be transparent communicators and lead in that sense. And then Brian Burns, someone who worked at ESPN for a long time, really challenged me on my understanding of the sports media landscape.
That's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. So first of all, thank you all for being on this panel. Like, I've really enjoyed it. You know, I get to know you not only on the panel, but I've known you guys, for some of you, for little while now, let's just say it starts aging me when we do this, but let's all continue to stay healthy, stay safe. Look, we work in sports. It's so cool. When sports comes back, people get so excited. They'll get excited at the office. The fans will get excited. You know, we were just talking before this with Drew. They're gonna probably be at full capacity by the end of this year, right here. So I can't wait to say it. It's like this. It's just my heart is pounding. So thank you all very much.